My rival skipped town overnight, leaving me his 5-year-old supervillain of a daughter. The kid sat down with a laptop and started pounding out code, hacking my estate's entire security system in under 3 minutes. On a whim, I posted a picture to my Instagram story. Instant dad. Picked up a stray. The supervillain vibes and genius IQ are all me, though. The result? My Ice Queen ex, the one who kicked me to the curb 3 years ago for having no ambition, blew up my phone with 99 frantic texts before smashing her way through my front gate in the middle of the night. Leo Vance. You had a kid with someone else. 01. My name is Leo Vance. In a past life, I was a cog in a machine, a Silicon Valley programmer who coded his way into a fatal heart attack. When I opened my eyes again, I'd been reborn into the body of a trust fund baby with the same name from some cheesy billionaire romance novel. The original Leo was a lovesick puppy, utterly obsessed with the cold, calculating CEO, Victoria Sterling. He didn't just simp for her. He handed over company shares and was ultimately humiliated when she dumped him at their engagement party for being a directionless parasite, making him the laughingstock of New York's elite. The day I took over, I stomped that lovesick puppy into the ground. To hell with love. I had a 10-figure inheritance. Why wouldn't I just embrace the life of a blissfully retired slacker? So, I promptly left all the family group chats, resigned from my cushy no-show executive position, and settled in my 30-acre Greenwich estate to fish, play video games, and generally live like a 60-year-old retiree. That peaceful existence came to a crashing halt last night when Julian, my lifelong rival and frenemy, showed up with a pink suitcase and a small, carbon-based life form in a goth punk dress and kicked my front door in. Leo, buddy, I've got to fly to Sierra Leone to, negotiate a situation. 3 months, maybe 6. This is my daughter, Willow. She's all yours. The Xbox controller nearly flew out of my hands. Are you insane? I can barely take care of myself. You wanted to look after a kid. You're the only person in this city I trust. Don't worry, Will's got an IQ of 160. Just try to make sure she doesn't blow up the house. Thanks, man. And before I could protest, the bastard vaulted my fence like he was fleeing a crime scene. In the cavernous living room, I was left staring at a pint-sized human who didn't even come up to my knee. Willow, 5 years old. She looked like an exquisite porcelain doll with alabaster skin and grape-dark eyes that held a chillingly adult indifference. She didn't even spare me a glance. She just opened her suitcase, pulled out a miniature laptop covered in skull stickers, and sat cross-legged on the Persian rug, her fingers flying across the keyboard. "What are you doing?" I asked, leaning closer. Without looking up, she replied in a voice that was both childlike and utterly terrifying. "Uncle Leo, is your smart home security system made of paper? I've already gained root access. I also took the liberty of disabling the child lock on your smart fridge." As if on cue, the Sub-Zero in the kitchen beeped, the door swung open, and a carton of Häagen-Dazs slid out onto the counter. I took a sharp breath. This wasn't a kid. This was a human-shaped cheat code. With nothing better to do, I pulled out my phone and snapped a picture of her profile, her brow furrowed in concentration as the blue light from the screen illuminated her face, giving her the distinct aura of a Bond villain. I threw up on my Instagram story with a caption, "Instant Dad. Picked up a stray." The supervillain vibes and genius IQ are all me, though. Then I headed to the wine cellar. 10 minutes later, I returned to the living room with a bottle of Romanée-Conti to find my phone vibrating so violently it was about to achieve liftoff. 120 missed calls. 99 unread messages on WhatsApp. All from a woman I had blocked and deleted 3 years ago, the one who kept making new burner numbers to stalk my social media, Victoria Sterling. The latest text was a single, searing line. "Leo, have you lost your mind? Whose child is that?" 02 Victoria Sterling, CEO of Sterling Industries, notoriously known as the Ice Queen of Wall Street, and the ex-fiancée the original Leo had thrown his life away for. 3 years ago, at their engagement party, she had looked down her nose at him and said, "Leo, what do you do besides collect dividends from your family trust? The man I want is a wolf who can conquer boardrooms, not a spoiled house cat who just wants to nap in the sun." Having just arrived in this body, I stood up from my seat in the audience and clapped. "Well said. In that case, the wedding's off. Hope you find your wolf, Victoria. Party's over, everyone." I cut off all contact with her after that day. I heard she'd become even more ruthless in the business world, a corporate shark everyone feared. But I never imagined that after 3 years of silence, a single Instagram story would be enough to make her completely lose it. I snorted, about to block her new number, when the smart security system blared to life. Warning: the main gate is under forcible attack. I walked over to the monitor. A black Rolls-Royce Phantom was parked outside my estate, and Victoria, dressed in a designer trench coat and 10-centimeter heels, was ordering her bodyguards to cut through my wrought iron gate with hydraulic shears. Is she serious? I laughed in disbelief. Before I could react, Willow, who had been devouring the ice cream, trotted over. She glanced at the screen, and her chubby little fingers danced across her keyboard. Uncle Leo, should I activate the perimeter defense drones? Or, perhaps, the lawn's concealed high-pressure sprinkler system? Willow looked up at me, a dangerous glint in her eyes, looking every bit the tiny anarchist. My jaw twitched. You hacked my sprinkler system, too? It was easy, she said, licking her spoon. That lady's wearing way too much makeup. It's thicker than my dad's excuses. Should we give her a rinse? Looking at the arrogant woman on the screen, a wicked idea took hold. I ruffled Willow's hair. Brilliant. Sprinklers. Full blast. On the monitor, just as Victoria was about to shout another order, a dozen high-pressure sprinkler heads shot up from the lawn. Whoosh! A torrent of water, with the force of a fire hose, erupted in a 360-degree assault. Ah! Victoria's shriek of fury and shock echoed through the speakers. In seconds, her 6-figure trench coat was soaked, her perfect chignon was ruined, and she looked like a drowned rat. Her bodyguards were knocked off their feet, flailing pathetically. Leo Vance, get out here right now. Victoria wiped water from her face and screamed at the camera, her usual icy composure shattered. I hit the intercom button. Miss Sterling, it's late. I figured you needed to cool off. If you don't leave, the next step involves releasing the hounds. You wouldn't dare, she seethed. Open this gate. I want to see the child from your Instagram. Leo, you better explain to me right now where you got a daughter that big. Why would I explain anything to you? I scoffed. Who are you to me? The feds don't have this much jurisdiction. Have a good night. With that, I cut the feed and locked down the main power to the gate. 03. I figured a woman as proud as Victoria Sterling would retreat after being so thoroughly humiliated. I underestimated her obsession. The next morning, Willow shook me awake. Uncle Leo, the drowned rat lady, is still outside. I stumbled to the window, my hair a mess, and pulled back the curtains. My blood ran cold. Victoria had been standing outside my gate all night. She'd changed into a dry outfit, but her face was pale as a sheet, her eyes were bloodshot, and she was staring at my villa with a terrifying intensity. I frowned. What the hell was wrong with her? I had to get Willow registered at the nearby elite private school, so I had no choice but to open the gate. The moment my Maybach cleared the garage, Victoria threw herself in front of the car, arms outstretched. Screech! I slammed on the brakes, the tires screaming against the asphalt. Are you trying to get yourself killed? I roared, rolling down the window. Victoria stalked over to the driver's side, her gaze ignoring me completely and locking onto Willow in the passenger seat. Willow, wearing a pair of black overalls and a small beret, was calmly solving a Rubik's Cube. Who is she? Victoria's voice trembled, her knuckles white as she gripped the edge of my car window. My daughter. What? You want to give her a welcome gift? I said flippantly, one hand resting on the steering wheel. Impossible, she shrieked, her eyes wild with disbelief. We broke up 3 years ago. She looks at least 5. Leo, were you cheating on me when we were together? You betrayed me. My brain nearly short-circuited. Excuse me? Lady, you're the one who publicly called off our engagement. Now you're playing the victim? Victoria, are you having a paranoid delusion? My face hardened. First, we were never really together. You were always looking down on me from your pedestal. Second, whether I have a partner, am married, or have a kid has absolutely nothing to do with you. How could it have nothing to do with me? Tears suddenly streamed down her face. It was a heart-wrenching sight that would have shattered the original Leo. Unfortunately for her, she was dealing with me. Leo, I know you're still angry about the engagement. You're just doing this to get back at me, aren't you? She took a deep breath, her tone softening with a hint of condescension. You hired a child to put on this little show just to get my attention. Well, it worked. I admit, I haven't been able to forget you these past 3 years. If you send this child of unknown origin away, I might consider giving you another chance to pursue me. Ugh, a theatrical gagging sound came from the passenger seat. Willow tugged on my sleeve, then shot me a mischievous wink. Before I could figure out what she was up to, she turned to Victoria, her inner actress taking over. Daddy, can we go now? I think this lady's brain is broken. It might be contagious. I looked at her big, blinking eyes and instantly understood. This kid was a keeper. Suppressing a laugh, I patted her head. You got it, sweetie. What did you call me? The casual lady, and the implication of her age hit Victoria right where it hurt. Her face cycled through shades of red and white. I slammed my foot on the gas. The Maybach roared to life, leaving Victoria Sterling standing in a cloud of exhaust. In the rearview mirror, I saw the famously composed Ice Queen of Wall Street scream in frustration and hurl her Hermes bag to the ground. Damn, that felt good. 04. After dealing with the psycho, I took Willow to the prestigious Starling International Academy. Since she was a mid-year transfer, she had to go through a brief interview and assessment. We were greeted by a young teacher named Autumn Reed. Autumn had the kind of gentle, classic beauty you'd see on a college sweetheart, dressed in a simple linen dress that complemented her warm smile and 2 faint dimples. Then I saw her casually bend a dented steel bento box back into perfect shape with her bare hands, and I had to pause. Sorry about that, Mr. Vance. Confiscated from a student, it was a little bent, she said nonchalantly, then turned her kind eyes to Willow. You must be Willow Croft. Come, let's see what you know. She handed Willow a worksheet filled with basic arithmetic. Willow glanced at the paper, then at Autumn, then pulled a modified mini Rubik's Cube from her pocket. With a flick of her wrist, it clicked, and a tiny plastic dart shot out, aimed directly at Autumn's face. Willow, stop! I yelled, horrified. But what happened next left both me and Willow speechless. Without so much as blinking, Autumn raised 2 slender fingers and, thwip, neatly plucked the dart out of the air. The movement was so fluid and fast it left an afterimage. Now, little one. We don't play with projectiles at school, Autumn said, her smile never faltering as she pocketed the dart. Willow was stunned. For the first time, this fearless, high IQ little troublemaker, who viewed firewalls as mere suggestions, looked genuinely serious. She silently put her cube away, sat down properly, picked up the pencil, and filled out the entire worksheet in less than 30 seconds. She even flipped it over and solved the differential equation she'd written on the back for good measure. I'm finished, Miss Reed, Willow said, using a tone of respect I had never heard from her before. I watched from the side, completely floored. Was this some kind of alpha recognizing alpha situation? This teacher had to be some kind of secret grandmaster. Excellent work? Autumn nodded, then looked at me. Mr. Vance, Willow is exceptionally bright. She more than meets our admission standards. She can start tomorrow. Thank you, Miss Reed. I was in absolute awe of this woman. Just as we were about to finalize the paperwork, the door to the headmaster's office burst open. Victoria's assistant strode in, her heels clacking on the floor. She slammed a folder down on the headmaster's desk. Mr. Davison, Miss Sterling has made it clear. If this academy accepts a child named Willow Croft, Sterling Industries will pull every dollar of its annual donation. The headmaster wiped sweat from his brow and looked at me helplessly. Mr. Vance, you see, my expression turned to ice. Victoria Sterling. She was like a damn ghost you couldn't shake. Interfering with a 5-year-old's school admission? Did she really think she owned the whole city? Before I could unleash my fury, Autumn spoke up. Excuse me, miss. Are you from the Board of Education? Her voice was soft, but each word was crystal clear. The assistant, taken aback, lifted her chin arrogantly. No, I'm from the executive office of Sterling Industries. Then what are you doing in our school? Telling us who we can and can't enroll. Autumn cut her off, picking up a thick-barreled marker from the desk. In front of the stunned assistant, she snapped it in half with one hand. Crack! Ink splattered, making the assistant jump back. Starling Academy enrolls students, not corporate interests. The door is over there. Please see yourself out, Autumn said, smiling sweetly as she pointed. I was mentally giving her a standing ovation. So cool. That contrast was everything. The assistant, trembling with rage, pointed a finger at me. Don't get cocky, Leo Vance. Miss Sterling is already running a full background check on this brat. You think you can fool her with some random kid? She said she will never let you get away with this. I frowned. Fool her? What was I trying to fool her about? A bad feeling told me that Victoria's paranoid mind had already cooked up some insane, dramatic backstory. 05. That night, I got confirmation of just how insane Victoria's dramatic backstory was. I was in my study with Willow, hacking a foreign government firewall as a little bedtime game when my phone rang. It was an unknown number. I answered, and a low male voice came through the line. Mr. Vance, this is Mickey, a private investigator. Miss Sterling hired me for a 7-figure sum to look into Miss Willow Croft's background. I raised an eyebrow. This PI had some interesting professional ethics, calling me to report on his own investigation. And? What did you find? I asked, leaning back in my chair. Mr. Vance, please don't be alarmed, Mickey said, his voice dropping to a conspiratorial whisper. I found that 5 years ago, Miss Sterling underwent a procedure abroad to have several of her eggs cryogenically frozen. There was a fire at the clinic, and some of the records were lost. Miss Sterling, she is now thoroughly convinced that you stole her eggs and hired a surrogate to have that child. Puff, the sip of tea I'd just taken sprayed all over my monitor. You gotta be kidding me. I shouted. Stole her eggs? Hired a surrogate? Did Victoria get dropped on her head as a child? She should be writing bad science fiction, not running a company. Mr. Vance, she's highly emotional right now. She's already acquired a hair sample from Miss Croft and is sending it for DNA analysis. If all goes as she expects, he trailed off. Expects my ass. I snapped, hanging up the phone. What kind of ridiculous soap opera plot was this? Willow was Julian's kid. How could she possibly be related to Victoria? Even with a DNA test, it would be impossible. Wait, a thought struck me, and a cold sweat broke out on my back. Julian Croft, that unreliable bastard. He was traveling internationally around 5 years ago, and he was always a wild card, walking a fine line between genius and maniac. Could be. I whipped my head around to look at Willow, who was now asleep, snoring softly with her head on her tablet. Her profile was almost unnaturally perfect. The pale skin, the aristocratic nose, and if I had to admit it, that air of cold, arrogant indifference she had was disturbingly similar to Victoria's. Oh, hell no. I buried my face in my hands. The world had gone completely mad. If Willow was actually Victoria's biological daughter, my instant dad situation was about to turn into a bitter custody battle. As my mind reeled, the estate security alarm shrieked again. Leo Vance. Victoria's voice, shrill and trembling, blasted through the intercom, laced with a deranged, hysterical edge. Get out here. The results are in. Why? Willow, she's my daughter. I closed my eyes and let out a long, weary sigh. Just end it all. I'm so tired. 06. I shuffled to the door in my robe and slippers, my face a mask of utter exhaustion. The early autumn wind was chilly. Victoria stood under a lone lamppost like a specter, clutching a lab report. The moment I opened the door, she shoved the report into my chest, tears streaming down her face. Leo, what do you have to say now? 99.9%. Willow is my biological daughter. Her voice was sharp enough to shatter glass, a cocktail of fury and manic joy. You monster. You stole my eggs and hired a surrogate all those years ago. You planned this, didn't you? You used this despicable scheme to tie me to you forever. I glanced down at the report. It bore the official seal of the most reputable genetics lab in the state. Paternity test results confirm a biological mother-daughter relationship between Victoria Sterling and Willow Croft. My brain shut down for a full 10 seconds. Did Julian Croft not only mess around overseas, but also somehow, through a 1 in a billion twist of fate, end up using Victoria's frozen eggs? If this were a TV show, the writers would be canceled for lazy plotting. Just as I was about to pull out my phone and drag Julian out of whatever war zone he was in, I felt a tug on my sleeve. Willow had followed me out, her skull-covered laptop in her arms. The little girl, dressed in SpongeBob pajamas, looked up with her usual cool expression and said calmly, Uncle Leo, don't bother. That paper is fake. Victoria leaped as if she'd been electrocuted. You're lying. I took the sample to the lab myself. Willow rolled her eyes, tapped a few keys, and turned the screen to me. Daddy, look. On the screen was the back-end interface of the genetics lab's internal system. I hacked their database earlier. The hair that old lady submitted was mine, but I tweaked the data on the generated PDF report. The original probability of parentage was 0%. I just added a 99.9 in front of it, she said with a yawn, her tone dripping with the boredom of a prankster who had already lost interest. I wanted to see how a narcissistic drama queen would react to a dose of false hope. Me, Victoria, for a full 30 seconds, the three of us stood in dead silence, broken only by the wind. I stared at Willow's innocent yet diabolical face and screamed internally, Julian, what kind of monster did you create? Hacking a national-level genetics lab at 5 years old? If the FBI found out, I'd be making license plates for the rest of my life as her guardian. Victoria's face went from white to red, then to a sickly green. She was trembling violently. No, impossible. You're lying to me. A little brat couldn't possibly know how to hack. Leo Vance, you taught her to tell this outrageous lie just to keep my daughter from me. Victoria, are you sick in the head? I had completely lost my patience. I ripped the fake report in two and threw the pieces in her face. Willow could write a firewall your entire tech division couldn't crack. You think you have the genes to produce a kid this smart? I'll say it one last time. Her last name is Croft, not Sterling and not Vance. Get off my property before I have you arrested for harassment. With that, I scooped Willow up, spun around, and slammed the villa door shut, killing the main power for good measure. From outside, Victoria's broken scream tore through the night. Leo Vance, you just wait. I always get what I want. I'm taking you to court. I'm getting my daughter back. 07. As it turns out, you should never underestimate the lengths a deranged, obsessive CEO will go to. The next day, Twitter exploded. Sterling so midnight search for daughter, billionaire scandal. Ex-fiancée steals egg for surrogate child Leo Vance is over party 3 hashtags, trending at #1. Victoria hadn't just hired a bot farm. She'd given an exclusive interview to a major financial news network. In the video, her usual Ice Queen persona was gone, replaced by a tearful victim who recounted a tragic tale of how I, consumed by bitterness, had stolen her genetic material to get revenge for our broken engagement. The comments were a dumpster fire of hate directed at me. This is horrifying. The guy's a total psycho. Stealing eggs? Nauseating. I feel so bad for Victoria. A powerful, independent woman gets stuck with a toxic ex like this. What a nightmare. Justice for Victoria. Get that monster thrown in jail and give her back her daughter. I sat on my sofa, scrolling through the comments, and laughed. On the rug, Willow was chewing on a lollipop, her hands a blur over her keyboard. Daddy, do you need me to hack Sterling Industries' internal tax records and post them on Twitter? She asked, as casually as if she were asking what I wanted for lunch. No need, sweetheart. That's like using a nuke to kill a fly, I said, ruffling her hair. I may have been lying low for 3 years, but that was only because the fortune the original Leo left me was more than enough for several lifetimes. I never said that was all I had. Out of sheer boredom, I had quietly established a venture capital firm registered overseas called Vance Stellar Capital. By now, Stellar was big enough to crush Sterling Industries like a bug. I picked up a separate, encrypted phone and dialed my #1 guy, a Wall Street shark named Shane. Boss, you're finally back from the dead. Shane's voice was shaking with excitement. Shane, I want Sterling Industries stock to hit rock bottom within 3 days, I said, my voice cold as I stared out at the sunlit lawn. And find out what major deals they have in the pipeline. I want you to kill every single one. She loves using capital as a weapon. Let's show her what it feels like to be on the receiving end. You got it, boss. I've been waiting for this call. It's done. After hanging up, I checked my watch. Time to take Willow to school. But when we pulled up to Starling International Academy, the entrance was swarmed by men in black suits. Victoria stood at the gate, wearing a sharp power suit and sunglasses, directing her bodyguards to force their way in. Search the entire premises. I don't care if you have to tear this school apart. Find my daughter and bring her to me, she commanded. A knot of dread tightened in my stomach. The crazy woman was actually trying to abduct a child from a school. 08. I threw open my car door and stormed toward the gate. Victoria, you're asking for it. I shoved 2 bodyguards aside, ready to go ballistic. But then I stopped dead in my tracks. Standing just behind the locked iron gate was one person. Autumn Reed. She was wearing a light blue knit sweater and a white pleated skirt, her long hair casually tied up with a simple wooden pin. She looked so delicate a strong breeze could knock her over. But at her feet, 5 of Victoria's bodyguards were writhing on the ground, groaning in pain. I'll say it again. It's the children's morning reading time. Autumn's voice was as gentle as a spring breeze, yet carried an undertone of warning. Your shouting is frightening them. Victoria stared at her downed men, her face livid. Who the hell do you think you are? I'm a CEO of Sterling Industries. Get this gate open now. The remaining 4 bodyguards exchanged nervous glances, then drew extendable batons and charged the gate. Sigh. Why won't people just listen? Autumn lamented. She took a step forward. Through the bars of the gate, her slender, pale hand seemed to gently tap one of the batons. Crack! The bodyguard, a man who had to be at least 220 pounds, was sent flying backward, baton and all. He landed in a heap at Victoria's feet and didn't move. Then, in a single, graceful motion, Autumn gripped the top of the iron fence, vaulted over the 7-foot barrier, and landed silently in the middle of the remaining 3 thugs. Fluid blocks, open palm strikes, and devastatingly efficient joint locks. It was over in less than 10 seconds. With a series of sickening snaps, the last of the bodyguards were on the ground, incapacitated. A dead silence fell over the scene. Autumn dusted off her hands and walked up to Victoria, her dimples reappearing as she smiled sweetly. Ma'am, Starling Academy is a reputable educational institution under the protection of the Reed family. If you have an issue with our security, you're welcome to file a complaint in court. But if you take one more step, I might accidentally break your legs. The Reed family? Victoria's face went white. The legendary Reed family? The one rumored to be an untouchable, old-money dynasty with deep ties to both the political and underworld elite? Standing a few yards away, I swallowed hard. She wasn't a kindergarten teacher. She was a T-Rex in a dress. I looked down at Willow, who was holding my hand. She was looking up at me, her eyes, for the first time, shining with pure hero worship. Daddy, I want to learn how to do that. It's way cooler than coding. I quickly walked over, placing Willow behind me. Miss Reed, I said, clearing my throat. That was impressive. When Autumn turned and saw me, the dangerous aura vanished instantly. She was once again the gentle, approachable teacher, a faint blush coloring her cheeks. Mr. Vance, good morning. I hope I didn't frighten Willow, she said, fidgeting with the hem of her sweater. I glanced at the bodyguard at her feet, who was currently foaming at the mouth with several broken ribs, and my eye twitched. Not at all. Willow thought you were very poised. Victoria watched the 3 of us, looking for all the world like a happy family, and the jealousy and rage finally broke her. Don't get so smug, Leo. You think cozying up to the Reeds will save you? She snarled, her eyes burning with a mad fury. My legal team has already filed a lawsuit against you for theft of genetic material. I'm going to destroy you. I shot her a cold look. Victoria, a piece of friendly advice. You might want to check your phone. 09. Victoria froze, then instinctively pulled her phone from her designer bag. The screen lit up with an incoming call from her executive assistant. Ms. Sterling, it's a disaster. The stock plunged the second the market opened. It hit the circuit breaker in 10 minutes. Van Stellar Capital out of Wall Street initiated a massive short sell, and it triggered a panic. What? Victoria cried out. Stellar was supposed to be in talks with us for our Series C funding. Why would they short us? Before she could process it, another call came through. It was her CFO. Mom, the banks are freezing our credit lines. They're saying our risk assessment profile has changed, and they're refusing to issue our next loan. Our cash flow is about to dry up. Ms. Sterling, we lost the bid for the Southside Development Project. Some shell corporation from overseas outbid us by a mile. Ms. Sterling, the flood of bad news was like a series of explosions, leaving her staggering. If she hadn't been leaning against the Rolls-Royce, she would have collapsed. How is this possible? She whispered in disbelief. Sterling Industries was a multi-billion-dollar empire. How could it be facing total collapse in under an hour? She snapped her head up, her eyes locking on me. and for the first time, I saw fear in them. It was you. Leo, you did this, didn't you? I shrugged. You give me too much credit. I'm just a lazy trust fund baby, remember? I guess what goes around comes around. You're lying. Her voice was shrill. Who else would come after me like this? Leo, what have you been doing behind my back all these years? Your biggest flaw, Victoria, is your arrogance, I said, taking Willow's hand and walking toward her. I looked down at the woman who had once seemed so untouchable. You thought I loved you because I was a fool? You thought I disappeared for 3 years because I was a failure? The truth is, I just realized wasting my time on a heartless person like you wasn't worth it. I pulled a folded paper from my pocket, a copy of the real DNA report Willow had printed for me, and flicked it at her. Open your eyes and read. This is the real report. Probability of parentage, 0%. Conclusion, exclusion. Willow has no biological connection to you or me. That 99.9% report? My daughter thought you were annoying, so she hacked the system and changed it for fun. The edge of the paper cut a thin line on her cheek. She trembling picked it up. As her eyes scanned the results, she froze as if struck by lightning, her pupils contracting in shock. Changed it for fun. Victoria choked out, as if she'd heard the most absurd joke in the world. No, it can't be. You're still lying. You forged this to get rid of me. Not only is that report real, a cool, lazy voice drawled from behind us. A flashy, hot pink Aston Martin skidded to a stop. The door flew open, and a man in a floral shirt and a thick gold chain, tanned to a deep bronze, hopped out. He took off his sunglasses, flashing a brilliant white smile. Leo, my man. I wrapped things up early and came straight back. Julian Croft strode over, swept Willow into a huge hug, then turned to Victoria with a smirk. Miss Sterling, allow me to introduce my daughter, Willow Croft. As for her mother, Julian dragged out the words. Let's just say she's a woman who is kinder than you, richer than you, and would never publicly humiliate a man at his own engagement party. This whole claiming my long-lost daughter act is really pathetic, don't you think? 10. Victoria stared daggers at Julian. Julian Croft? Who the hell are you to be part of his little act? She screamed, her beautiful face twisted with humiliation. Do you really think finding some random guy to play this brat's father will make me back off? I'm telling you, as long as I'm breathing, neither of you will have a moment's peace. The word brat set Julian off. He might be a goofball, but he was fiercely protective. The smile vanished from his face. He took a step forward, his 6'2" frame casting a menacing shadow over her. Ms. Sterling, has being a corporate tyrant rotted your brain? Keep calling my daughter names, and I swear I'll rip your tongue out. He scoffed, then pulled a small, official-looking booklet from his pocket and threw it at her. Read it and weep. That's my daughter's birth certificate and a notarized copy of our paternity test. Her mother's name is right there in black and white. Dr. Eris Thorne. She's one of the top cryptographers at the NSA. A single strand of her hair is worth more than your entire miserable life. Who the hell do you think you are, trying to claim my kid? At the name Eris Thorne, I felt Willow, whose hand was back in mine, roll her eyes and mutter, that workaholic barely remembers she has a daughter. Victoria looked at the birth certificate, and all the strength seemed to drain out of her. If she could have deluded herself into thinking I was lying, this concrete proof, along with Julian's face, which, despite the tan, was a clear mirror of Willow's, shattered her last shred of denial. No, this can't be real, she whispered, clutching her head, her pride crushed into dust. Just then, the sound of sirens grew louder. 3 police cruisers screeched to a halt in front of the school. Several uniformed officers got out and walked directly toward Victoria. Victoria Sterling, the lead officer said, flashing a badge. We're with the SEC's White-Collar Crime Division. We've received a detailed, anonymous tip, complete with extensive digital evidence, implicating Sterling Industries in massive tax evasion, securities fraud, and multiple counts of illegal anti-competitive practices. Please come with us. Anonymous tip. Victoria shrieked, her head snapping up to glare at me. It was you, wasn't it? You're not just bankrupting my company. You're trying to send me to prison. I held up my hands in mock innocence. Now, Miss Sterling, you got me all wrong. I'm a law-abiding citizen. Hacking is way above my pay grade. I glanced down at Willow. The little girl was dutifully tucking her skull-covered laptop into her backpack, wiping her hands with an air of mission accomplished before giving me a beatific smile. Some people just dig their own graves, lady, Willow added in her sweet, childish voice, delivering the final blow. An officer snapped a pair of handcuffs on Victoria's wrists. As they led her to the car, she suddenly twisted around, her wild eyes fixed on me and Autumn standing side by side, and let out a chilling, hysterical laugh. Leo Vance, you think you've won? I'll get you for this. I'll haunt you from my grave. The car door slammed shut, cutting off her curse. I rubbed my ears and let out a deep breath. Finally, the psychodrama queen was officially off the air. 11. After the circus left town, a welcome quiet settled over the school entrance. Autumn gently patted Willow's head, then turned to me with a smile. Mr. Vance, I'll take Willow from here. Don't you worry. Thank you, Miss Reed, for everything. I looked into her eyes, which seemed to hold all the warmth in the world, and my heart did a little flip. Who knew such a gentle soul was hiding the spirit of a warrior? As Autumn led Willow into the school, Julian threw his arms around my neck like an octopus. Now, I missed you, man. You have no idea what I've been through, fighting with warlords over mineral rights. It was hell. I pried his arm off me. Get off. I thought you said 3 months. What are you doing back after one? Julian looked sheepish. Well, Willow's mom had a rare moment of mercy and unfroze my bank accounts. I couldn't take another day of being hunted, so I bailed. I rolled my eyes, uninterested in his chaotic family drama. Fina, you have your daughter back. Now get your stuff out of my house. No way. Julian latched onto my leg. Leo, my condo association cut off my water and power for unpaid dues. Besides, Willow called you daddy. You can't just throw your adorable goddaughter out on the street, can you? You're a Croft. How can you not afford your condo fees? I asked, shocked. He sighed, looking wistfully at the sky. My old man tried to force me into an arranged marriage, so I walked out with nothing but the clothes on my back. I'm a penniless man, Leo. You'll have to take me in. I looked at his punchable face and let out a cold laugh. Penniless? Julian, did you not hear who just tanked Sterling Industries? He blinked. Vance Stellar Capital. So, there's some notorious Shark Tank on Wall Street. Super mysterious. Wait a minute. His eyes widened in horror. He pointed a trembling finger at me. Vance Stellar. Leo Vance? Oh my God. Don't tell me that bloodthirsty VC firm is run by you. The king of slackers? I calmly adjusted my cuffs and patted his shoulder. The one and only. So, if you want to stay at my place, rent is $100,000 a month. Plus child support and emotional distress fees. Let's start with a $5 million deposit. Julian dropped to his knees, clutching my leg even tighter and wailing, Dad. From this day forward, you are my father. Willow calls you Daddy, I'll call you Dad. It's not weird. 12. Sterling Industries collapsed. Victoria Sterling was indicted on multiple federal charges and was facing a long time in prison. The once untouchable queen of Wall Street had lost everything to her own paranoia and greed. The original Leo could finally rest in peace. My quiet, retired life was back on track, except it wasn't. My estate now housed a freeloading Julian and a tiny master hacker who considered taking down global servers a fun after-school activity. And I was facing the biggest challenge of my life. I was completely, hopelessly falling for Autumn Reed. Ever since I saw her send a 220-pound man flying, the image of that girl in the white skirt with the smiling eyes was permanently etched in my brain. I started dropping off and picking up Willow every day, always bringing an extra lunch I'd made myself for Autumn. Mr. Vance, this crab-stuffed meatball is amazing, Autumn said, taking small, delicate bites in the teacher's lounge, a soft blush on her cheeks. If you like it, I'll make it for you every day, I said, propping my chin on my hand and grinning like an idiot. Uncle Leo, you look like a golden retriever in heat, Willow muttered from her corner, not looking up from her code. My face burned. I shot her a death glare. Autumn giggled, covering her mouth. She put down her chopsticks and looked at me seriously. Now, I've actually known you for a while. I blinked. You have. She nodded, a mischievous spark in her eyes. 3 years ago, at the Sterling engagement party, I was there representing my family. When you stood up, told Victoria off, and called the whole thing off, you were incredibly cool. She paused, her voice dropping to a whisper. I started paying attention to you after that. I heard you'd gone into seclusion, and I may have driven by your estate a few times. But all I ever saw you doing was fishing. My brain stalled. This whole time, I thought it was love at first sight for me. Turns out, it was a long con for her. Then, why didn't you just come talk to me? I stammered. Autumn sighed, her brow furrowing. I was afraid I'd scare you. I grew up training in a compound in the Berkshires. My family says I don't know my own strength, that I might accidentally kill a boy. I finally found someone I liked. And what if I got excited and crushed your bones? As she spoke, she unconsciously tightened her grip on the stainless steel spoon in her hand. With a soft crunch, the spoon crumpled into a metal ball. I swallowed, then cautiously placed my hand over hers, the soft, delicate hand with terrifying power, and said with all the conviction I could muster, "It's okay. I have strong bones, and if you'll have me, Miss Reed, I'd be honored to let you crush them for the rest of my life." Autumn's face turned a deep, beautiful red. She squeezed my hand back, her touch impossibly gentle. Okay. 13. 1 year later. My Greenwich estate was decked out in lights and flowers. Today was my wedding day. To honor Autumn's family traditions, we were having a massive 3-day celebration. I stood in front of the mirror, adjusting the collar of my custom-tailored suit, feeling on top of the world. "Leo, you son of a gun, you actually did it." Julian, my best man, clapped me on the back, his eyes a little misty. "I'm so happy for you, man. All right, save the waterworks. Did you bring a fat enough check for the wedding gift?" I joked. "Don't worry. I'm ready to go bankrupt to make sure you have the best day ever," he declared. The time had come. Amidst a deafening roar of fireworks, Autumn appeared, looking breathtaking in a stunning white gown, walking down the aisle on her father's arm. Her eyes, full of the warmth that had captured my heart, were locked on me. We exchanged our vows, our voices steady. When it came time to exchange the rings, the entire venue fell silent. A faint buzzing sound filled the air. Everyone looked up to see a heavily modified, cyberpunk-style drone descending from the sky. It dangled a small, elegant wooden box, hovering perfectly between me and Autumn. At the edge of the crowd, a 6-year-old Willow, dressed in a sharp little black suit and tactical sunglasses, expertly piloted the drone with a tablet. "Daddy, Mom, congratulations," Willow's cool, serious voice announced through the drone speaker. "Also, I have upgraded the estate's security to its maximum level. If anyone tries to mess with you tonight, I will activate the electric fence and roast them like a pig." A collective gasp went through the crowd. Several of Julian's friends, who had been planning some post-wedding shenanigans, quietly hid their confetti poppers. I looked at my fiercely protective little supervillain and chuckled. I took the box. Inside were 2 custom-made signet rings, engraved with a new family crest combining a Vance lion and a reed crane. I slipped one onto Autumn's finger. She slid the other onto mine. "Leo Vance, I'm all yours now," she whispered, her dimples showing. "Mrs. Vance, for the rest of my life," I replied, pulling her into my arms. Sunlight flooded the garden. In the distance, Julian was being forced to do shots with Autumn's intimidating uncles, while Willow gleefully recorded his humiliation with her drone. A gentle breeze carried the scent of late-blooming roses. In my last life, I worked myself to death. In this one, I just wanted to be a slacker. But somehow along the way, I'd stumbled into the most beautiful, chaotic, and wonderful life I could have ever imagined. This ridiculous, unbelievable world, it was pretty damn great.